This morning I have two very special guests with me, Chava McKeel from GCSAA, and she is the Director of Government Relations. Also with me is Rafael Barajas, CGCS and Golf Course Superintendent, and Rafael is the Chairman of the GCSAA's Government Relations Committee. And I have these two very special guests with me this morning to talk about National Golf Day. Many of you are aware that GCSAA travels to Capitol Hill every year. This year it was on April 16th for National Golf Day, and they fight for us, fight for golf course superintendents. And I'm going to not talk a whole lot today because these two were on Capitol Hill on April 16th for National Golf Day, and I'm going to kind of let them take over the show here and talk about what they did. Golf course superintendents know that we were on the Hill that day. There were some great posts out of GCSAA talking about what they've done, but I wanted to kind of humanize the experience and let them know exactly what went on that day from Chava's perspective and then Rafael's perspective as a golf course superintendent and a board director for the GCSAA. So I'll let you two kind of take it over here. Why don't you kind of just give us a brief overview of the day?
Sure. Thank you, Bill, for having both Rafael on today. We'll do our very best to try to humanize this event a little bit that we've been now doing for, I'd say, 6 years on Capitol Hill. But the planning for National Golf Day, it sort of begins back in November and December. And so we know GCSA's been committed to bringing the Government Relations Committee and its leadership and its board of directors to Capitol Hill for National Golf Day. So we also joined the Golf Allied groups there, the PGA of America, the Club Managers Association, the National Golf Course Owners Association. Those are the 4 groups that comprise the We Are Golf Coalition. So we begin planning early on. We know we have those leaders and the GR committee members going. We also begin to start identifying who our storytellers are going to be joining us. So one of the things that we're trying to do on Capitol Hill is to magnify the great values that golf has, whether it's golf as an economic engine or the environmental contributions of the game of golf, the charitable donations that it generates to the recreational attributes, the social attributes. So one of the ways that we've decided to try to help the create this new perception, I would say, about the golf industry is through storytellers. So we identify individuals early on that can help us tout those values to policymakers on Capitol Hill. So GCSA is sort of been identified as the environmental storyteller. So every year we try to find out who has some really great environmental stories that they can tell about golf and the environment to policymakers. This year we identified Matt Schaefer, who's the golf course superintendent out at Marine Golf Club, and he's hosting the U.S. Open here shortly. And we also brought in Bob Farron, who's over at Pinehurst and will be hosting back-to-back U.S. Opens next year. So we're responsible for the environmental storytellers. There's also storytellers then that tout those other values of golf. This year we brought in some women with Judy Creek Golf Course, and they're small business owners, and so they can kind of share that small business story. We also brought in some individuals with Salute Military Golf Association, some Wounded Warriors, to talk about that side of the industry from the storytelling perspective. So we begin this planning early on by identifying who's actually going to be there, and then we also start thinking about what are the issues that we're going to be lobbying on the Hill at that time. There's 2 different tracks. We have kind of the We Are Golf track of issues, and then we have GCSA specific issues, because National Golf Day really just complements GCSA's year-round government relations efforts, which are very wide-ranging. But we have issues that we collectively lobby on as the golf industry, but then we also start thinking about what are the issues that just GCSA's delegation is going to lobby on. to give you an idea, this year the WAG coalition, the We Are Golf Coalition, had recently released some new national economic impact data, and there was new charitable data. I believe it's the 2011 National Economic Impact Study was released in the fall, and then some of that information was released recently at the PGA Merchandise Show. But we wanted to share that new updated economic data with policymakers. We've also had a long-standing issue that we've been trying to work through, and that's on federal disaster tax relief legislation. So that was one of the issues that we lobbied on again this year. Your viewers might not know this, but back in 2006, the golf industry was lumped in with massage parlors and tattoo parlors as a sin industry. When Hurricane Katrina came through the Gulf Coast region, that area was declared a federally declared a natural disaster area. And so whenever those types of things happen, Congress steps in and tries to support the recovery of those areas. And so they usually put forward a disaster tax relief bill and to help with the recovery efforts. Well, in 2006, when they did produce a bill post-Katrina, they exempted the golf industry, included them with tattoo parlors and massage parlors as a sin industry not worthy of assistance. And that was a real problem. Unfortunately, as Congress often does, as the years go by and we have other disasters that hit the country, they take that legislation and they copy and paste it, and it becomes the foundation of a new bill. So not only was the golf industry excluded from relief back in 2006 with Hurricane Katrina, but then they were also excluded in 2008 with the Midwest disaster tax relief, when we had all the tornadoes and the floods in Iowa. And then moving forward, golf was again excluded, exempted from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009, or the Economic Stimulus Package. All of those things, and lumping golf in as a sin industry, by way of background, was sort of the impetus of getting the We Are Golf Coalition together in the first place. But what we're trying to do is trying to reverse that. We're trying to overturn that. So last year we were able, because we've been successfully lobbying year after year and sharing golf's positive messages, there was legislation after Hurricane Sandy. There was a bill introduced last winter to help with Hurricane Sandy relief, and for once and for all, it reversed that. It would have allowed public golf courses to be able to tap into the disaster relief tax legislation like any other small businesses. So that didn't get passed. That bill never made it, to passage by the end of last year. But we were on the Hill this year lobbying in support of, bringing that kind of legislation back and making sure that it passed. So again, going back to your question, we find out who's going, and then we start looking at what issues we're going to be lobbying on. From a WAG perspective, we provided the new economic data that we had, the new charitable data that shows golf brings in $3.9 billion in charitable donations annually. We talked to lawmakers as well about disaster tax relief. But then on the GCSAA side, we take a look at our priority issues agenda, and we have 6 core issues that we lobby on year-round. And we see what's going on the Hill right now related to those issues that we need to be having a voice on. This year, it happened to be comprehensive immigration reform, because labor and immigration is one of our issues. And so right now, Congress is in the very beginning stages of trying to pass a comprehensive immigration reform bill. The bill was actually introduced the day after National Golf Day, so our timing couldn't have been better to be on the Hill to help with the lobby and support of that. Also, we're really concerned about these Clean Water Act NPDES pesticide general permits and the impact that they're having on golf courses. And so there's legislation in Congress right now that would do away with those permits. So we spent our time talking with lawmakers about that issue as well. But just to get more logistically, let me just give you kind of an idea of what this day looks like, and then I'll let Rafael jump in. I don't want to take up all the time, but the first thing that happens is we conduct the Government Relations Committee meeting the day before National Golf Day. So we do our just general committee business. We also spend time just doing preparing for our Hill visits, becoming familiar with Capitol Hill, becoming familiar with our messaging points, doing some role play, making sure everybody's comfortable with talking with members of Congress about all of these issues. We then join the other golf allies and get together and do a similar exercise. We do additional Hill prep with them, focusing more on the WAG talking points. Then the next day we all get together first thing in the morning and have our photograph taken on the steps of the Capitol building. And I think you've probably seen that photo out in some of the different news releases out there. And then that's the beginning of the day. We begin to flood out across Capitol Hill and conduct Hill appointments. This year we had about 115 Hill appointments. Wow. Between the entire delegation that was there. GCSA brought a delegation of about 26 people to this event, but there was folks from the CMAA, NGCOA, the PGA Tour, the PGA, the builders, the architects, and so on and so forth. But just within those 115 Hill appointments, GCSA conducted 60 of those by themselves. So we met with a lot of lawmakers on National Golf Day. So we flood out. We hit these offices throughout the day from about 9 to 4. While all of those meetings are going on, in addition to that, then there's a large exhibit in the Rayburn House office building, and it's the National Golf Day exhibit. And there's so many things that are going on in there. I'll just hit a few highlights. I'll let Rafael talk a little bit about what the folks, our environmental display in the Rayburn foyer. But we have this display area that includes live lessons, golf lessons for members of Congress and their staff. This year, Michael Breed, who's on the Golf Channel, came in and conducted those lessons, as well as the LPGA professional Dana Rader. We also had a swing simulator available in there for members of Congress and their staff to come test out their swings. We had a birdie ball. The folks from the birdie ball came in and allowed individuals who'd maybe never played golf, never swung a golf club in their life to come in and practice learning how to play the game of golf. And there was also a putting contest between the Republican and Democratic members of Congress and their staff.
Did they argue about who putts first?
You know, I didn't see the arguments, and I don't really know who won that. So one of the highlights of that area, in my opinion, is the environmental display that we put on in that area. We have the Mid-Atlantic chapter come in and put on a really nice display about the science behind turf grass management. So I know Rafael got to spend a little bit of time with the folks from the Mid-Atlantic in that area. I never even made it to the Rayburn foyer the whole day because I had 9 appointments back to back. But Rafael, I'll let you want to talk about that special place in the Rayburn foyer? We can't hear you, Rafael.
I got it here.
There you go.
I got it.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
We got you, Rafael. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Let me just start by saying that I was very fortunate to be one of the storytellers 6 years ago. So I was a guinea pig for this particular project, and it was an eye opener for me to see the misconception and the fact that the legislators didn't understand what golf was all about. They knew about golf, obviously, but the perception is that it's a reach sport, and we know all the details. But one of the things I like to start by saying is that GCSA has steadily built this government relations program over the last 15+ years, and we believe advocacy is a key attribute of the association, and we also we have been the entity of influence in this area for many years. As I have mentioned, we have many representatives. We have representatives conduct several meetings with members of Congress Congress. I was fortunate to meet with my representatives as well, and really, and it was really comforting to see the fact that they're more willing to listen now versus when I first started going to D.C. six years ago or so. As far as the display on the foyer, it was interesting that people were very engaged in that area. We had many people that were really were really eager to find out what was going on there. The display highlighted many tools in the golf course management trade, showing items such as putting green samples, soil moisture sensors, and irrigation tools. One of the irrigation tools, was a laptop that had the irrigation program of one of the golf courses, and the superintendents were showing how they could control such elaborate irrigation system from, whatever they are, as long as they have internet access. So that was really, really interesting. The members of Congress, their staff learned about the science and the art behind golf course maintenance, and they began to see how golf course superintendents are stewards of the land, and how golf course superintendents are also educated professionals who care about the environment. And that's really, really important to, that one of the things that I saw. They also began to see the importance of turf grass itself in the community. Members of Congress and their staff also began, saw that the golf course superintendent community are green spaces that provide recreational opportunities and also offer an enhanced wildlife habitat. So there was a lot of really good things and a lot of activity going on, and everybody was really engaged and interested in what was going on there.
Very good. I guess, Chava, based on how you opened things up, you talked about the first day you're there, you have meetings and people are kind of educated and coached on, I guess, how to conduct these meetings. Who does that for us? Is it you that does that? Is it oh, okay. And you had talked yesterday too. National Golf Day goes, or our advocacy efforts go well beyond one day in D.C. And I was shocked. I think you mentioned you're in D.C. Did you say once a month at least?
No, I mean last year I was in Washington D.C. every other month.
Okay.
And so it's getting to be about that. I'm usually ending up in Washington D.C. about every other month. Just to go back to what you said here at your first point, we conduct our Government Relations Committee meeting annually at our lobby firm in D.C. that helps support our GCSA's efforts at the federal level. So we have a firm there. We have this Hill prep session in the afternoon. I lead and direct that prep session, as well as the attorneys who work and the lobbyists and attorneys who work for us as well. They're part of that. And this year we also picked on some of our members and our board of directors to help us do some of the role play. Now, we've been doing this now so long, for so many years I should say, that people are getting more and more comfortable in conducting these meetings. So it's really sort of more for the benefit of the new committee members. One of the things we also did this year, different than we've done in previous years, is that for the issues that we lobbied on comprehensive reform and the NPDES permits, we did a lot of advanced Hill prep outside before we even came to Washington, D.C. We had some series of conference calls where we brought in the leaders of some of the national coalitions that we belong to talk and give us a bit more of background information about these issues, so you always feel more confident when you're going to the Hill talking about them. An example is one of the components of the immigration bill that's important to GCSA is that we do have a temporary worker program. So year-round we support making sure the preservation of the H-2B visa program is there. Well, we brought in users of that program to talk to our members that were going to the Hill, to talk to them about, share their stories of why they need this program, why it's of importance to them, how it helps them keep their doors open at the facility. When you're asked to serve on the Government Relations Committee, you're not asked to just lobby on things that are important to you in your location or your state. You're asked to look at things from a national perspective. So there may be things that you lobby in support of or in opposition to that don't really directly impact your facility, or maybe aren't widely used in your state, but they are maybe programs or chemicals or whatever it is, products. You know, those things might be important to other areas of the country, but you need to be able to speak on behalf of the entire industry. And so we do a lot of advanced Hill prep throughout the year, but especially leading up to National Golf Day.
Very good. Now, I know from a strategy standpoint, we don't want to talk about who you met with, but how,
well,
when we
go
down those,
sort of a flavor of that.
Yeah, the 115 meetings, and it's fantastic that, you know, I think you mentioned 3 or 4 other groups from the industry, CMAA, PGA was down there. Of the 115 meetings, we got 60 of them. How does that kind of work? Is it the 115 people say we're available for you that day? We don't need to mention names. And then how do we get to pick the 60? And then if we find out who we're meeting with prior to, is our strategy in terms of what we present to them based on who we're meeting with?
Sure.
Bill, how about, give me 1 second before Hava answers the question. Let me just say that Hava has done a tremendous job in setting up all those appointments, and you know, she does a phenomenal job, and it's something. It's a lot of work. As the Government Relations Committee chair, I didn't realize how much it was and how much work it was until I was, you know, started working a lot closer with Hava. So, you know, take it away, Hava. You've done a phenomenal job.
All right. Thank you, Rafael. Starting about 6 weeks in advance of National Golf Day, once we know who's coming to National Golf Day, we do one of 2 things, Bill. The first one is we know that for every member of the GCSA delegation that's going to National Golf Day, we're going to line up an appointment with them in both of their Senate offices. We also know that we're going to take a look at their addresses, their home address, and their golf facility address, and we're going to line up an appointment for them with their representative on the Hill. And it might be 1 or 2 depending on, you know, if they live and work in the same area. So at a minimum, every member of the GCSA delegation that goes there is going to meet with 2 senators or their staff and 1 or 2 House members. That's a given. And because we need to be building those constituency relationships. The next thing that we do then is a little more strategic. It's looking, again, like I said, what are the issues that we're going to be lobbying on National Golf Day? What are the issues that we're lobbying on year-round? And who is it that we need to see? So this year, I won't name names, but what I can tell you is the kinds of committees that are important to GCSA are the ones where the legislation lives that impact the golf facility. So we took the opportunity during this National Golf Day to go meet with the professional staff who run the House Agriculture Committee. We met with the professional staff who run the Senate Agriculture Committee. We also were able to meet with professional staff when both on the Senate Environment Public Works Committee. The NPDES bill that I alluded to yesterday lives in the jurisdiction of that committee. So we made sure to go meet with the professional staff on the Democratic side and the Republican side to share, you know, we wanted to let them know our position on our issues. What else? I personally and Rhett Evans, our CEO, and Richard Conzum, our COO, we were able to go meet with the entire Kansas congressional delegation who represents GCSAA. And it was really fun. We actually met with Senator Roberts. We met with Senator Moran. We met with Representative Lynn Jenkins and had a good 35 minutes with each of them. Now, I go into those offices year-round, and I'm a kind of a regular there, but it was a really nice chance to get our executive leadership in there as well to meet with them, too. So let me think. We also met with staff on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. And finally, we had a special meeting with the United States Department of Agriculture. Greg Lyman, our Director of Environmental Programs, Darren Davis, our board member, John Fulling, our board member, and a few others. had a meeting with the USDA the afternoon of National Golf Day. And during that meeting, they had an opportunity to introduce, the golf industry, or reintroduce the golf industry to the USDA. We were able to, discuss turfgrass research needs with them. We were able to have conversations with them about trying to secure some federal funding to help with the transition off of methyl bromide, which is a product that's really of importance to the industry down in the southeast, and yet it's being phased out. And so we're trying to search for some dollars to have our university scientists be able to find alternatives for that. So it was fairly wide-ranging, the breadth of people that we went and see. Part of it is just, we know that the committee's coming, we know the board is, let's get those appointments made. But then part of it is strategic, is who has influence over the legislation that affects the golf industry. Separate from that, Bill, we also work with the firm that manages the We Are Golf Coalition. We start looking at the National Disaster Tax Relief that I talked to you earlier about. We start thinking about the storytellers that are coming into town, and we're like, who do they need to go see? So, for example, for Matt Schaefer and for Bob Farron that came, they went and met with the co-chairs of a congressional caucus called the Sustainability Energy Environmental Caucus, and started building a relationship with that caucus. That caucus is a group of members of Congress who are really passionate about sustainability, just like GCSAA is. So it's important to make that connection. I guess last but not least, I would say in terms of our meetings, and that we were pleased that we were able to go have meetings with 6 of the 8 members of the Senate Gang of 8 who drafted the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Bill. So we were able to go in there and thank those Republicans and Democrats in the Senate for taking a leadership role in this area, for drafting this important piece of legislation to our industry, and then also talking to them about, what we need to see in a particular bill, what we need to see in legislation that's passed. So I don't know if Rafael wants to pick up on any of this or has anything else to add, but that's sort of, we start 6 weeks out in advance, and it's just a matter of day in and day out getting on the phone, using email to line up these appointments. And it takes about, you're lining them up till the day of the event. And so you've got this really master spreadsheet that plugs all this in, and you just try to make it all work and hope it works out.
Very good.
Yeah, Bill, as you heard, it takes a lot of work, but the work doesn't stop there. You asked earlier about the fact that, what we need to do year-round. And as an industry, we need to get out in front of the potential issues. Our chapters really should be working together at the state level to develop EMPs and programs that they need to be put in writing on how to operate their facilities. We also need to let people know what we do and what we don't do. There's no doubt that we need to work with our golf highlights at the state level to collect economic data and environmental data also, and share this information with lawmakers through state lobby days. We definitely need to try to host policymakers out on the golf course. And the most important thing is that we need to understand that if we don't have a seat at the table, we are certainly going to be a part of the menu, and I don't think we want to do that.
Right. GCSA does a fantastic job for its members on advocacy and fighting for everything, and a lot, Chava, I was a delegate for several years, and so we get to hear, I guess, your report every year. But this is fantastic, because I don't know that people understand how much our Government Relations Committee and yourself and GCSA as a whole really fight for some of the bills that are listed. They create a bill on the Hill, and there's so many things put in that bill, and it's great that we've got eyes on that all the time to see, like you had mentioned about the disaster relief bill, that we were excluded from it, and so many of us were affected by that. I know a couple golf courses of the portfolio that I was involved in. I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage from Sandy and some of the other storms that have come up. So it's great that you do that. Rafael, I was going to close kind of with what you had brought up on what we can do year-round as superintendents. I know the affiliate chapter in Virginia did a great job of putting together their BMP notebook. But Javi, you mentioned about building the constituent relationship. So if I'm a golf course superintendent that has a congressman or a senator at my golf course, and this is for either of you, what should I be doing to build that relationship? Or should I be working through GCSAA to build that relationship? Or how do we handle that?
Rafael, do you want me to take that?
Please, yeah, take it over. You're the expert.
Right, no, I mean, that is absolutely what we need to be doing, is building our grassroots base. And again, there's so many things, as Rafael just said, from little small things to big things that we should be doing. One of the important things is we need to be aware of what's going on. That's at the very basic level of things. You need to really keep an eye on the pulse of what's going on around you. What are the things that could be a threat to your facility? Is somebody talking about wanting to take the tools out of your toolbox? Are you seeing things in the local newspaper, hearing things in your newspapers, on the TV, in the press, in your state or location, things that could really impact your facility? When you see those things, you need to give me a call, because I want to know about it. We need to kind of work together and be the eyes and ears together of things. And then, working with GCSAA, we can provide a tremendous amount of support to help you respond to those things and get more engaged in those things. I wanted to go back, Bill, to what you said earlier. It's so true that the advocacy reach of GCSA is it's huge, and I don't think people understand. I'm sort of the face of GCSAA as the Director of Government Relations, so they kind of see me, or you had a chance personally to see me at the chapter delegates meeting and talk about these things. But what you might not see is that how wide-ranging the advocacy efforts are. We've got field staff now representing almost all 50 states. And they are truly an extension of our advocacy arm. And just this last week, I've been sort of compiling all the things in the advocacy world that they are touching and impacting at the state level. And I could go on with the list of places that they've been and conversations they're having with people, and they're joining water boards, and they're joining different getting involved in different initiatives, making sure that GCSA and its members are having a voice at the state and local levels. But also, we have an environmental programs team here at GCSA that helps, support the efforts of golf course superintendents in the environmental realm. 3 of our priority issues on our agenda are environmental: water management, pesticide management, fertilizer management. So they're out there helping create the tools and the resources that help superintendents. We can't just talk the talk, but we have to walk the walk. So they help support that. But it's the research that's conducted that helps with the messaging. It's the survey instruments like the Environmental Profile Project that helps support the message. But all of those things combined show a pretty wide reach in this area. But for superintendents specifically, they need to know what's going on. They need to be, stay on top of things. Certainly read GCSA communications vehicles where we report out a lot of the information in the government relations area. They also need to be, really positioning themselves right now, especially at the chapter level, for this regulatory scrutiny, this environmental regulatory scrutiny that's on the rise. And a lot of our chapters have really had success stories in this area. Virginia is one of them that you alluded to, because of all the focus on fertilizers in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. All the superintendents in those 6 states in that watershed, whether it's Maryland or Pennsylvania, Virginia, they've all had a seat at the table there helping craft, really good practical public policy in terms of fertilizer use moving forward. But Florida has been on top of this. They have their BMP's manual, and now this is catching on. And other chapters in other states are starting to see the return, in investment, and the return in value in getting together, not only as superintendents, but as the larger allies together, working together to communicate, and they need to be doing that. But certainly, you can start with inviting a lawmaker or a policymaker out to your course, because all you're doing is sharing your story. And you need to they need to come out to your, to where you are, so that you can explain to them, this is sustainable golf course operations. This is how I appropriately, responsibly manage this piece of land in front of me. And it's not difficult, it's not scary, it's not hard. You're just telling your story. You're just telling them exactly what you do, and more importantly, you're telling them what you don't do. And you're trying to, chip away at some of those misperceptions about the game. So GCSA, I guess in closing, I would like to say that this area is a core attribute of GCSAA, and we have been a leader in this area. And the board of directors wants to make this, has seen this as a key attribute of the association moving forward, and is even putting more resources behind this effort. I'm getting ready to get some additional support staff here to help me manage the GR component of this association, which is really exciting. And there's really great and wonderful things on the horizon. We're talking about building a formalized key contacts program that would allow our members to sign up in a more formalized way and raise their hand and say, I want to fight for this industry. I want to tell my story. When Chava and the others put out an action alert, I want to be the one that says, okay, I promise to make the phone call. I'll be the one to write the letter. I'll be the one to host the site visit at my facility. In return for taking on that role, then we will provide the members the training, the tools, the resources that they need to be effective in the public policy arena. So that's on the horizon. But National Golf Day, again, it complements our year-round efforts. It's my Super Bowl event of the year. I think it's one of the Super Bowl events for the GCSA, and I get no greater pleasure than watching our members who've never done something like this before, never gone in and talked to a lawmaker face to face, go through that exercise and come out of there a changed person. It really is a life-changing event. They're like, wow, I can really make a difference, and they get excited about it. They want to go back home to the state level, and they want to get other people involved, and that's just one of the greatest things that in my role as the director of GCSA and Government Relations gets to see day in and day out, and it's really exciting.
Very good.
Do you have anything to close?
Yes, I just like to say that there's a tremendous value to the members from GCSA, and this is one of them. As a director, I have the privilege to get weekly updates from our CEO, Rhett, and one of them is the field staff reports. And I truly enjoyed reading those reports because it shows all the issues that are going on throughout the country, and there's a lot of similarities. Hava mentioned the fact that National Golf Day is our Super Bowl, and it is, and I can tell you that we have a great quarterback in Hava. We're certainly going to win that game without a doubt. But as what golf course superintendents need to do on a daily basis, weekly basis, is just stay informed. And when an issue comes up, is to get involved. Don't be afraid to sign up and, like Hava said, hey, I want to make that phone call. I want to write a letter to my legislator or my representative, because it is important. If we do it in numbers, they're gonna listen to us. And we don't want a special treatment in D.C. We just want to be treated equal as anybody else. I mean, we don't want to be put in the same category as massage parlors, because we're not. We're more family. I mean, we're a family business. We're businesses that cater to families, and that's really what's important to me. The other thing is just when you have an issue at the local level, and this is one of the things that I try to emphasize to the committee, Government Relations Committee, is like, look, this committee needs to focus on from 30 feet up. We need to look at things from 30 feet above. And one of the things, we can't look at our issues we can't focus our emphasis and efforts on our local issues. If you have any issues at the local level, GCSA has the resources to be able to help you. But for us, We need to look at the whole picture, at the big picture here, and whether it impacts our area or not. But I can tell you, going back to our Super Bowl, I can't emphasize this enough. Our quarterback is absolutely phenomenal.
Very good. Well, guys,
I want to. Team though, we've got a great team.
Very good. Well, I would like to thank both of you for your time this morning. I know both of you are very busy. I know, Rafael, it was a little early for you, so I appreciate you joining us from California. This was fantastic. Maybe we can try and do, Chava, at least with you, try and do some more of these to help update some people on what's going on and some key issues. But this was fantastic. This really, I think, is going to open the eyes to a lot of people about National Golf Day, but more importantly about the advocacy that is done through GCSAA on our behalf, which is great. So thank you both very much. Everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll have this posted on the website shortly for your viewing pleasure at any time. So thank you both, and
thank you,
we'll talk
Bill.
to you. Absolutely.
Bill, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.